Gina, we're on. Welcome everyone to the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. My name is Mark Ross, and with me tonight I have Gina Casazza.
Great job. Great pronunciation.
Hey.
Nailed it.
So, Gina, before we get started with the kidnapping experience and the
Oh, we're
seal
going there.
training,
Okay.
yeah, I want to talk about all that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
What was life like for you before all that?
Uh, it was fine. It was good. Great childhood. Very active, very busy. Always, did stuff. I was involved in a lot of things. My parents made sure I was very, very busy.
Mm.
And I went into the film business. I was working in the film business for a while. Living in Los Angeles, and then COVID hit, and then enter that story. So that was it.
Okay, okay. So I read in your bio that you went deaf in your left ear
Correct.
at
Yes.
21, but you
20.
regained your hearing 10 years later.
Yes,
Talk about
correct.
that experience.
Yeah, so it's not a full regain, but it's a regain. Like I didn't, it's not 100% back, but there's no such thing as a percentage, they told me, but if they had to like make it so I understood, it was like 85%. So, which is a significant
Mm.
increase from zero. Okay,
Hmm.
it was at
Hmm.
zero. There was no hearing aid that I could wear because there's no sound to amplify zero.
Hmm.
And so I had a cross hearing aid where like it was a microphone in one ear and then it would go into the other ear, but it was just really annoying. So I just stopped wearing it. And
Oh.
I just, I don't know, I just felt like, why can't I be a miracle like everybody else? Like, I mean, not like everybody, I mean, miracles are, they say rare, but we hear these stories. That's the thing. It's like, that's how they get you with everything. It's like you hear a story about a plane crashing, right? And then you're now scared of going on planes and all this stuff, right? But you forget about like the 500 planes that take off that day that are fine, right? And then
Hmm.
you hear about that like one miracle that happened, but you forget about all the other miracles that don't happen, right? And it's like
Yeah,
whatever you give
yeah.
your power to on thinking, it's like that's where you're going to go. So
True.
I gave my power to that miracle. And I was like, I want to be that miracle. And so I just would go to doctors, like every ENT doctor I could go to. I was living in New York at the time. I flew to LA. Oh no, I'm sorry. I was living in LA at the time. And at this time in my life, this was a couple of years after I lost my hearing. And I like saw the best ENT doctor in the world, like the number one guy. And I was like, this guy has to be the one that like tells me. Because at this point, I went to like five ENTs and he was like, give it up. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just not. And I like went home crying and I was like, all right, take a break. Like, take a break. You've been taking hearing tests like all the time. You've been going to all these doctors. Like, it's been a couple of years. Just take a break.
Hmm.
Um, I kind of went down like a just a dark path in terms of like the living situation I was in was negative. The work situation that I was in was negative. I was not where I was wanted to be in my life. It's like when you're a child, you have this plan and society gives you a plan of, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, and it's just not linear like that, especially in the film business. And the film business is really, really tough and a lot of rejection. You have to have thick skin. And I just was struggling to make ends meet. It was just like a really difficult time. And then my hearing on top of all that
Mm.
and the relationships that I were in, like friendship, like any relationship, it was just all in the work, family, friends, everything was just like negative. Not family. Family was always great. But
Good.
it was just negative. And then I discovered like Dr. Wayne Dyer and I was started reading his books, which was starting to make me feel better. And then, because I guess I was in like what you'd call like depression. No, I was definitely in a depression. Like I was crying every day and it
Mm.
was just a really, really low point in my life.
Indeed.
And I couldn't sleep at night. I'd be pacing at night, crying in the day. I was working like three jobs to make ends meet. Like it was just really rough.
Yeah.
and taking like meetings all the time to meet people because again, you have to like, make your connections and network in the business. And I just started discovering like CST therapy, which is like cranial sacral therapy, which is holistic healing. And then I discovered like alternative medicine, like an osteopath. And then I found out about energy work. And then I found out about essential oils. And then I was like, when I tried this, like I tried everything that they told me to do and didn't work. So let me go this route and see what happens. And I did. And not only did I then regain hearing, but I just became a happy human being. Like I just like my whole life shifted. Like
Nice.
job, job left, roommate left, new friends, new environment, new situation. Like I just became happier and then I just started like living my best life just with a
Mhm.
smile on my face. Like no matter what was gonna come at me, like I was smiling. I got through a dark period and and then I ended up regaining hearing and
Just like that.
I mean, no, wasn't just like that, but it was just like it took a lot of work in terms of like seeing a doctor, like the
Okay.
craniosacral therapist, like helped me with getting rid of my tinnitus. And she was amazing because she did a sliding scale. Like I couldn't even afford her sliding scale, but when it comes to your health, at some point you just like forget, like I'll put myself in debt for this because
Yeah.
it's like you know, I mean, RFK said it best the other day in his speech when he was getting sworn in, and he was like, um, a healthy person can have a million dreams, a sick person only has one. And,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
that's so powerful. And I resonated with that so much. So it was like I put myself in that. And then I went to go and see an energy healer. I was working with Dee Wallace. She's the actress from E.T., and she's
Yeah.
incredible in so
Yeah.
many things.
Yeah.
And I was starting to see her, and I didn't have the money to see her. I took out a whole new credit card to see her because I was like, she's magical. I have to work with her. And then while we were working together, we worked together for like 5 years. She also gave me her osteopath who was in Santa Monica. And this guy was like $700 for the first visit. I was like, this is more
The
than I
first
make in
visit.
2 weeks. Like, oh my God. What?
The first visit.
First visit, 700. And then after that, it was like anywhere between 350 and like 540. And like you didn't know until you finished the visit what it was going to be. It was like,
Oh.
like the worst, like, the worst feeling ever when you're like, what's the damage? Like, are we in
Yeah.
the threes? Are we in the fives? Because
Yeah.
it was costing me, like I said, like more, like that $700, like more than like 2 weeks of my paycheck. 'Cause, like, it was just like a struggle. So, but I did it and I really attribute he was the first person that ever said to me, I said, listen, I know I have hearing. Like I know it. And he did like this crazy test that like I couldn't even pass with my hearing. Like I was like, am I deaf in this here too? Like it was a hard test.
Yeah.
And when he finished the test, he was like, I believe you. I believe you have hearing. Like you couldn't have um there was
Hmm.
no way you could have faked that test that he just gave me. And then he helped me. He really, really helped me. But it was just a combination of all those people coming together and helping me. And then I took a test and they couldn't even believe it because I went to so many hearing people over a 10-year span that this was not the original hearing people. And they
Hmm.
couldn't believe that I went from 0 to like 85. It was pretty cool. A
That's
cool feeling.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And well, congratulations on getting your hearing mostly back.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's better than nothing.
Like back. Yeah, I just say back. It's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good that you mentioned uh taking charge of your thinking, like thinking positive and bringing that positive energy out, right? Because I think a lot of us we're so adapt to negative stuff and negative expectations that energy just becomes a part of who we are, and some of us can't even see the positive, you know.
That was me in my 20s. That was me in my 20s. You couldn't say anything. I couldn't see the positives. I cried all the time. Everything was negative,
Yeah.
and it took me a really long time to learn about my happiness being on the inside. I went from really dark, low days and it was all my own creation.
Indeed.
It was like, and even though my external things were a struggle, it just, again, like everything is on the inside, it's still a struggle, but you don't, but I'm happy. There's a difference. It's like life is still hard and didn't
Yeah.
get easier. I just I just got happier, like that's it.
Good. Let's talk about the SEAL training because I'm very interested to figure out what how that went. But tell me what made you decide to, I'm going to give this training a shot.
Well, I had no choice at one point. Well, there's a choice, but what happened is I was living in Los Angeles, crime was on the rise. Also, there was nothing to do because they shut everything down. Like everything was shut down for like almost 3 years. It was like forever. And I guess it was like my second year, with COVID, like being shut down and like things weren't opening up and crime was on the rise. And I looked at my mom and I'm like, you think you could survive a kidnapping? Because she was staying with me for a little bit. And then she was like, no. And I was like, you answered that too quickly. Like, think about it. She's like, I don't need to think about it. Look at you. And then I was like, oh my God, like there has to be like a class for that. And not like a little self-defense class that like, I hate those women self-defense classes or any self-defense class that you like take and you crush it and then you go home and then you test it out and you can't do anything, it's like every time, right?
Right.
And but at the class you feel like you're like superwoman, right? And then you get home and you're like, oh, I didn't learn anything. Like like it worked there, why isn't it working right now, right? So I was like, I need an intense program. Like I need a program that like really kidnaps you and puts you through stuff to see how your natural instinct would react, like what would happen. And I found one. It's called SEER. The military goes through it, and it's called Survival, Invasion, Resistance, Escape. Our special forces do it.
Mhm.
And this is like a civilian one, so it was only a weekend. They do like 21 days or something like that.
Yeah, something like
And yeah, and I didn't know what it was, but I just saw the word kidnapping, and I was like, this is what I'm looking for, I think. So I signed up, no refunds. And I realized after I
that.
looked into it, like, I'm not going to make it. Like, I'm 100% not going to make it. Like, she's totally right. And so
Gonna die in training.
I wouldn't make it. So I was like, what am I going to do? And then I just finished reading the book Living with the SEAL by Jesse Itzler. So obviously I just had Navy SEAL on my brain. And I'm like, that's who I need. I need a Navy SEAL. Like, that's what I need. So I would like Google Navy SEAL. I didn't even think about LinkedIn, but I just was like Googling and then I came across this program called Team Eagle One. It's a nonprofit. And what it does is it you you go through the pipe they help you go through the pipeline, to become a SEAL, and they had a huge success rate, like huge success rate. And it was run by a former Navy SEAL, and I reached out and I said, listen, I don't want to interrupt your program. I know it's like military and it's like for these guys to go through buds and other, soft programs, but I said, I just paid to get kidnapped. I'm not gonna make it. Can I just sort of try one day of training? I just want to see if I wouldn't quit and if I like have a little bit of strength, mentally and physically. And he was like, "Oh my God, if you're crazy to sign up for civilian SEER, like come on down. I gotta meet you."
Mm,
And I did, and it was like the hardest, most intense thing I've ever done in my life, but
mm,
I got through it. Like I did it. And then I didn't quit. And then when it was over, I asked if I could join. And he could have said no because it was a nonprofit and it was completely free for everybody.
okay.
But he said, we'd love to have you. Come on. Yeah, we'd love that. And so I ended up like staying in the program up until SEER. And then I went to SEER. And then I went back to the program for another month until I officially left California. But I was in the program for 2 months in person, and then I did like 6 months on my own. But it was life changing. I mean, without it, I wouldn't have my children's book. I wouldn't have my nonprofit. I wouldn't be a speaker. Like it changed my whole trajectory of my life. Yeah.
So, so what did you had to do in this training?
The Navy SEAL training,
Yes.
it was just a lot of running. God, it was a lot. It was like so much running. It was on the beach of the Santa Monica Pier. And I mean, when I think about it and I look back, it was very difficult and hard. But when I look back at it, it was like, it was just 2 to 3 hours of our time, like But sometimes it went like longer and stuff like that. We didn't know when it was ever going to end. He didn't want you to know. Like it was just like around the time, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it just felt like hours. It felt like days. It just never ended in my mind, but it was a real short time when you really think about it. But it beat the hell out of you. I mean, it just, first of all, the soft sand running is a different beast than hard running or anything like that, like concrete and stuff like that. You're dressed in uniform.
Mm,
You're doing surf torture. You're doing sugar cookies. You're being covered in sand, head
yeah.
to toe. You're
Oh,
soaking wet, which gives you more weight on you. Then you have to
yes.
go for sprints. Like I remember our first, like our beginning run before, like just as we were starting, was
Hmm.
like a mile run. That was a race. And I was like, he's like, warm up run, and it was a race. I was like, this is not a warm up. Like, this is a race is not a warm up. A race is like, this is the main event. And then I was just like, oh my God. And then we did like so many push-ups and sit-ups and flutter kicks and fireman carries and sandbag things. And oh my God, it was just one after another after another. And these guys didn't walk to anything. It was like they went and they got a drink and that ran to that, and it was like quick, like it was no breaks. It was like quick drink down, go, like when you had to go to the next phase and the next
Yeah.
section of the beat, it was a run, and I'm just like
Oh,
like oh my God, it was I my first day, I was a giant. I mean, I was aching in places I didn't know could ache. um I didn't know how to do a pull up. We did a lot of pull ups, and I didn't
oh
know how
yeah.
to do a pull up. And
Yeah.
by the end of it, I mean, my first month of training, I gained 10 pounds of muscle.
Mm,
First month. Like
amazing.
it's just like, oh my God, it was a real kick in the teeth. And it was funny though, because it never got easier. Like even for every single person in that program, whether you were in the front or you were last or you were in the middle, it was challenging and hard for everybody. And
Mm,
you
mm,
know, you you struggled. Like it was like, my
yeah.
God, but it was amazing. It was life changing.
So you were on some GI Jane type stuff, huh?
Yeah, don't look it. I don't look it, but I mean, and I didn't look it at the time. I mean, I did. I mean, I still wouldn't look it, but it was funny. I remember my brothers came one day to the training, uh, to watch me or something, and they were like, "You should get a t-shirt," because we all had white tees and then fatigues and boots and stuff. And they're
Yes.
like, and we're on the beach in Santa Monica, so like sometimes we had a crowd. We had people watching us sometimes, and things like that. And my brothers were like, "You should have a t-shirt that lets them know like you're not actually protecting and serving them like they are, because you are terrible." They're like, you're really bad, and I think you're just gonna scare the people on the beach to thinking like if that's what we're letting into our military, we really need to raise the bar. Like,
You were that horrible, huh?
oh yeah, I was really bad. Yeah,
But you did it. You
I did
did it.
it. Yeah,
And,
I
and
mean, it's just don't quit. It's just don't quit. I mean, that's really it. You just put off quitting till it ends, right? I mean,
awesome,
and,
man.
and it just sounds so simple, but like that's what it is. It's like you just do what they say. But I mean, in a way, in my mind, it was like I didn't have to be the best. I just had to get through it. And then after a month, it was okay, now I need to be better, like, but the first month it was like, let me just get through it. And then when you're there for a while, you're like, okay, I can't be last anymore, We gotta
Yeah,
step it
yeah.
up. I gotta step it up.
Yeah, you got to finish. So how's your physicality been since then?
I go to the gym every day.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And I know you mentioned something about a kidnapping experience. Was that part of the training? Was that all in one, or is it different?
No, that was separate. So I signed up for that.
Okay,
And as a result of me signing up for that, I joined this Navy SEAL program to train for the kidnapping.
okay. So talk
Yeah.
about that experience because
That
I'm
was
sure.
wild. That was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like every fear of my life in one night. Like everything. It was like in the mountains of San Bernardino. No, I was at Big Bear. Big Bear in California in the mountains. And we go there. It was really funny though, because me and my family are extremely close. We talk every day. I have two brothers. We're very close, but they are brutal. They are very, very brutal and honest and, intense. But I remember like one of my brothers, we were going over this list that they gave us on what we need to bring. And my brother was like, a tent. What are you getting kidnapped? What do you need a tent for? And he was like, and my family's never camped a day in their life. I just want to throw that out there. So
Mm.
we don't have any camping equipment. I wouldn't even know how to put up a tent, okay, if I had to get a tent. So they were like, what do you need a tent for? Like all of a sudden you're gonna get kidnapped and be like, hold on, let me pull out my tent to sleep tonight. He's like, no, like you need to be really experience what it's like. You need to be in the woods sleeping. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna get this tent. I'm not gonna get the stuff. I'm just gonna show up as me. And then like a part of me, and I think it was my mom or one of my other brothers, I don't remember who it was like, you should just get the stuff just in case. You're driving up there, just have it in the car, right? Thank God for Amazon Prime because it was like literally the day of this stuff came because I ordered it 2 days before the event. And I
Oh,
got like a pop-up tent, so you just pull it out of the bag and it pops up. You don't get any simpler than that. It just does it, just pops up for you. And I was
right.
like, what an age we live in. This is amazing. Like this is fantastic, right?
Truly, truly,
So I got like
truly.
all the simplest things I could possibly get. But the one thing I forgot, what I didn't have was a coat. And I show up to this
Oh,
thing in a
yeah.
cotton sweatshirt and I didn't know this, but like cotton kills. Like you don't want to be in cotton if you are trapped like at night by yourself in the rain, like all that, because it just sucks the body heat from you, right? You need to take the cotton off. I was like, well, that should have been in the memo you gave with the
How
list
about
of
that?
stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
who's supposed to know that? And
Yeah.
right. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and the thing was that was really funny is there was like two groups of people in this that signed up for this year thing. There was 12 of us. I was like, six of them actually like go in and save kids from being trafficked. And they're like former SWAT, military, like they were huge people. They were huge. And there was one girl who was like literally G.I. Jane. Okay. And then you
Mhm.
had this other group and it was like me, a brain scientist. I mean, like no one that like you would, it was an interesting
Brain
group of
science.
us, right?
Yeah.
But they looked at me and they were like, where's your coat? Like the people that were leading the class were like, where's your coat? And I'm like, I don't own a coat. They're like, what? I'm like, it's Southern California. What do I need a coat for? And they're like, you didn't bring a coat? Like,
You're in the
we're gonna,
mountains.
I was like, and then they told me that. And I was like, in the memo, like, put that, have a coat. And, and they were like, I guess they just didn't think anyone was that dumb. And so thank goodness one of my teammates had an extra coat and gave me their coat and like saved my life. I don't think I would have made it through the night. So what happens is the first day they train you. So the
Okay.
first day they train you, and then the second day they throw you out into the wilderness. Let me tell you something. One day of training does not prepare you for anything. It's like that stupid self-defense courses. That's an hour, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
make you like a ninja.
Right.
And and so we did this like one day of training, and that's why you needed your tent because you sleep in your tent in the comfort of your tent, and then the next day it happens. Okay.
Mm,
And I couldn't sleep because I was thinking it was happening in the tent. They were going to take me from my tent. Like, worst
right.
nightmare. I mean, like, all these, I'm in the woods. I'm scared of the dark. I'm scared of anything that moves. Like, I don't like animals. Like, it's just like a thing. Like, I just like, you do your thing. I do my thing. Just leave me alone. I don't like being touched. Like, all these things. And now I am like, in the wilderness about to go through this kidnapping experience.
Mm,
And then they're preparing you like how to get out of zip ties and how to get out of handcuffs and how to follow the stars, how to follow the stars. That's a whole like year of study, like years of studying, and things like that. And
wow.
compasses and north
Yes.
and south. I'm confused. So it was just a journey. And what happened is I remember this ice. I'm telling you, I just attribute this to saving my life. I know, no, it's a simulation, but it felt real. But what happened is like an hour before they They did. They threw a flash pin into the room and screamed, "Everybody get down!" And they put a bag over your head and they zip tied you and they put you away. And then the torture began. They torture you for 3 to 4 hours. At some point, you get to escape, and then they hunt you in the woods all night. And if they find you, it's
Right.
not good.
Right.
So, and they have to last until morning, and it's 37 degrees or something like that outside in the cold. And, when you're with these strangers, and it's in twos, you have to stay in your pairs because, for safety reasons. But, you're cuddling with a stranger. You don't even know this person, and you're just like cuddling like you've been in a relationship for 20 years.
Mm.
And it's so bizarre. And yet, what happened was, is an hour before all this happened, I went outside and I just looked up and I said, "Listen, I don't ask for anything. I don't ever pray." I said, "I need this like desperately." And I'm like, "I need to stay dry. I need to get through this. And I just needed like an easy experience, like, please." And and then I went inside and then this flash pin gets thrown in. They say, "Everybody get down." And I go down. And oh, and I said this one, I said, "I need to stay dry." That's very important. I said, "That's the key. I need to stay dry." So, so then they throw the
And a
flashbang.
lie.
Yeah. And they go, "Everybody get down." And then I jump down and I'm like looking at the ground, like at the ground. And I had Coach Mac. I swear, without the Navy SEAL training, I never would have made it. Like prayer and all, I never would have made it without the Navy SEAL. And he's like, "Everybody get down." So I get down, and then I have Coach Max voice in my head going, "Look up, look up, look up. Know what's going on at all times." Like even when we had sand in our eyes and all this stuff, we were never allowed to close our eyes, like ever. You always had to know what was going on. And
Even when they kick sand in your eyes.
you just had to, like, I mean, like when you were kicking it and the flutter kicks were happening and sand was going in your eyes, you had to keep your eyes open. Like you had to know what was going on at all times. And I had him in my voice, and then I saw the SWAT guys and all stuff like barreling through and escaping, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I forgot. Like escape. Like don't even get kidnapped in the first place, right?" Like,
Mm.
I have to go through all this. So
Mm.
I saw them. So then I get up and start following them and they start grabbing. And there's 20 people, like 20 people against 12. It's like
Yeah.
there were over 20. And
Right.
you just grab me, I'm done for. I'm 90 pounds. So it's like, oh my gosh. So I run and then they're barricading through, and all of a sudden, like they're grabbing. So I jump down, transition. Coach Max said, transition is what's going to save your life. You have to know how to transition from up to down, down to up, all that stuff. So then
Yeah.
I went down to make myself small so they wouldn't pay attention to me, right? And
Right.
then all of a sudden I'm looking up and there was a moment where I was able to get out. Like there was an opening. They grabbed the girl's backpack, the GI Jane, and as she was shimmying out of her backpack and they're all trying to go around, there was just a small little opening that just happened to be for a 5 foot 90 pound person. And I was like, "That's for me. That's it. That's the answer." And I ran through as fast as I could. I didn't look down. And then next thing you know, I'm down a mountain. Like, like steep down a mountain. Like
Yeah.
I just ran down that cliff. I thought I was going to tumble because it was so steep and you're running so fast. You're like instantly in Hunger Games. And it was like the scariest thing ever. And then all of a sudden, like we're running for like, I don't know, felt like forever until
Right.
we like caught our bearings. I didn't think I was going to catch up with these guys, and I caught up with them, thank God. And they were just as surprised as I, because again, I think I'm 5 foot at the time, under 100 pounds. Like I am not the person that you're looking at going, "Oh, she's gonna make it." Like like if you're gonna bet, you're not betting on me. I'm not betting on me.
Right.
It's
Right.
just not happening. And then I did. Like I was like, "Oh my God, Gina, who are you?" And and then I ended up like being with these guys, and then we split up into groups of two, two, and two because they were tracking us. So we had to like, all this stuff. And they had like drones and they had cars. We didn't have cars, right? We're on foot. They had all the advantage, against us. But you know, it was an experience. I'll tell you that. And I left. So what happened too, this is just really fun little detail real quick. So they split us up into groups of 6 and 6. And I ended up escaping. My team ended up I was with the team that was getting tortured, and I just left them. And I was with this new group now when they all they saw me and I'm like, "Hey, you mind if I join you guys?" I just left them. And then the next day, my teammate was like, thanks for just ditching us. And I was like, well, I was going to get help. I was like, that's how I'm like somebody had to get help. And they didn't have a fun experience, but I stayed dry. I mean, a lot easier for me. I didn't get tortured and that. Not easy as in
A
you're
horrible teammate.
horrible. But in a way, like I
Hey,
went to go get help. That's how I looked at it.
you prayed for to be safe and dry, and you took that opportunity presented itself, and you
They
took
should have
it.
prayed. I told them that too, and they were like, I can't believe you just, how did you just left us? And I was like, well, you should have prayed. And I was like, it's like it works.
Yeah, then you, I'm living proof it works.
Yeah, that was it. If I
Hey,
wasn't a believer before then, I'm a believer now.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you got me laughing over here. Oh man. Uh, uh, so you said that it changed your whole perspective, which I could definitely see how that it would. Uh, what's what did you take from that, from both experiences, and how did you incorporate that into your life as far as the new Gina?
So the biggest thing was belonging. So it was something I've been looking for 31 years. I always grew up like feeling like I didn't belong. I always felt a little different than everybody else. Even like if I looked like I fit in, but like I was great in like especially like in softball sports. It looked like I fit in with everybody. I was a star athlete, and yet on the inside I just always felt like I wasn't part of the team. I always felt a little different. It was weird. I don't know what it was. And it wasn't until I was in this Navy SEAL program and training with the Navy SEAL and also going through the civilian SEER that I learned what true belonging was. Because, like I told you, like I was never going to fit in. Like you looked at me and you were like, you could point me out like easily, I'm in front of all the SWAT and the GIJ and all that stuff. You're like, she doesn't fit in. Like, look at her, right? What was she doing there? But I learned that that is not what belonging means. Fitting in and belonging are complete opposites. Fitting in means I need to change myself to be like everybody else, right? I need to look like them. I need to think like them. I need to be on the same skill level as them. All that stuff is all about fitting in, right? But belonging means that I can just show up as my authentic self and know that I belong and I'm enough, right?
Mm,
And that was a huge message because now when I go into things and I'm very, especially as someone that runs a nonprofit,
mm,
I'm very, very involved in community. I'm very involved in clubs. I'm very involved in whatever I can get into to A, get the nonprofit out there and to B, connect with people that can help grow the nonprofit, right?
mm,
So I come in with confidence. Like that's when you have belonging and you know that you belong, no matter what, like whether I look different, whether I talk different, whether I think different, whether I'm on a different skill level
mhm,
as somebody else, like when you know that you belong, you just have a different level of confidence to yourself that
mm,
you show up and you're there and you're like, this is who I am, this is what I got to offer. And here, and because the thing is, it's like, it's not like I'm not going to get better, right? It's not like my skill level's gonna, you know, stay the same. I'm going to increase at that. And, and for myself with the Navy SEALs, like I gained 10 pounds of muscle. I was looking different and things like that. But again,
sure.
like I was still showing up as me and my authentic self. And that level of confidence is something that only when you know that you belong and that you're enough as who you are, like that's what that brings you.
Mm,
So it's just, that was the biggest lesson. And that's helped me in everything. Like it's helped me when I was doing comedy at the time. It helped me when I'd show up with the comedians. There's no imposter syndrome when you know you belong. There's no imposter syndrome because you know that you belong there, like no matter what. And I can't relate to people that have imposter syndrome because again, like I know that I belong when I am going to do something and I am going to be a part of something. I know that I belong there because I'm putting myself there, right?
mhm.
So and then I decide if I'm going to stay or if I'm going to go, right? But that's how I look at it. And that was a huge win for me and my self-esteem and my everything just boom, new level, new Gina. unlocked.
Right, right. So you talked about a nonprofit.
Mhm.
What was that nonprofit that you run?
So I founded the nonprofit Empower Literacy and Beyond, and
Hmm.
our mission is to not only increase child literacy, but self-esteem building and belonging.
Mm. How long have you done that?
Just started it.
Oh,
It's not even a year old.
oh, so it's still fresh.
Still fresh. Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know you mentioned something too about authoring a book.
I'm a children's author. Yeah. That's where
Okay.
the children's literacy comes into play.
All right, that's what's up. And you just have that one book. Do you really truly do belong? I think is the title of the book.
That is the book. So it's You Really Truly Do Belong with Cosmo the Alien. And what I now have is a second book coming out by the fall. It's going to be called You Really Truly Are Enough with Cosmo the Alien as well. I chose an alien because it's the ultimate outsider, right? Every kid can relate to the alien. Everyone can understand what it's like to feel like, you're different. So
Yeah,
I made that character. And then from that, I'm branding it. So I created Cosmo the Alien YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel and it's animated, and Cosmo the Alien sings songs and teaches kids ABCs and all about animals and belonging and teamwork and all that stuff. And it's fun.
that's great. That's great. And you also have a podcast, correct?
Do you have a
You talked
podcast?
about that. You mentioned that. What's the name of the podcast?
It's called Mindset Lessons from the Field, and it is a special forces podcast. So my guests are special forces, and they teach our listeners resilience, grit, and mental fitness so they can, be ready for any challenges that come their way in life.
Nice, nice. So, what's next? You have a lot going on, but what's what's next for you in your journey, Gina?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, at this point, I just strap in and enjoy the ride. I am a person that says, oh, I'd like to experience that. And I go and experience it. So I remember saying to my teammates, I'm going to go write a children's book. It was a Sunday. And on a
Mm,
Monday, I went and I wrote a children's book. And then I was like, I'm going to publish this book. And then I went on a journey to publish the book. And I decided I've been then speaking. It kind of blew up and I became a speaker and I was speaking to children, but then I started branching into adults and they all wanted to know about my Navy SEAL story. So I said, I'll write
yeah,
the memoir and I will do a podcast with that. And now here that is, so for myself, I can't say what's next because I feel like I just go, oh, I like that. Let's go over there and experience that and see what happens.
just gamble with
Obviously, as
that.
a as an entrepreneur and a business owner and all that stuff, I do have to, a nonprofit is a lot of work and a podcast is a lot of work and being an
Yeah,
author and a speaker is
yeah.
a lot of work and you don't just show up speaking, you have a whole, it's a craft you practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also have a plushie business. So there's just
Plushy,
I
like a
do
plushy
plushies.
pillow.
Yeah, it's called Spear Emoji. And right now we are doing like a whole relaunch, but I have that going on as well. So it's like there is so much in a way and I love traveling. I love traveling with my mom. We like to go out of the country twice a year. And then
Mm.
I like to go and see my brothers um every every chance I get. So it's just whatever. It's just for me, I'm open to anything that comes in. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm here for it. I've like not that much time on earth
No.
and I wanna live it and experience all that I can.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Like, and I like how you move in terms of you see the interest in something and you engage in it.
Yeah.
So that
Gotta
that's
engage. Gotta engage in life. That's how things are gonna work. That's how when you are on your deathbed, you don't have any regrets, right?
indeed
You don't say, oh, I wish I would have published that book. It's like, no, I did it and I got it. I experienced it. Okay, what's next?
done. What's next? Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. How can people reach you, Gina?
My website, GinaCasazza.com, Gina Casazza at Gmail. You could reach me. Those two things are probably the best way to get in contact with me.
All right. All right. Gina Casazza, it has been a privilege to talk with you and really get a good laugh from your kidnapping story because I that sounds like something that I would do.
Yeah,
I would definitely
you should do it. You should do it. Let me know if you're interested in the information. I'll send it your way. You could then tell me how your experience was on my show.
right, right, indeed. Gina Casazza, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me.
Thanks for having me.
And on that note, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, self-care is important. So please make your mental health and your physical health a priority. Do it every day and do it first. You have a good evening, Gina. And everyone else, you have a good evening as well. Take care.